try one more time with my mute off. Good morning, everyone. I would like to acknowledge the land on which we gather virtually today is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabeg, and the Neutral people. We acknowledge the enduring presence of the Indigenous people with whom we share this land, their achievements and their contributions to our community. I offer this acknowledgement as a small act of reconciliation between Indigenous and non-Indigenous people of Canada. I would also like to acknowledge that today is National Indigenous Day. What I have learned from the Indigenous people is that our relationship with the land is one of stewardship rather than ownership, and I'm honored to walk with them. Exactly 2 years ago today, our community celebrated. And just as then, today I am joined by some of my colleagues, Councillors Galloway, Jowett, Kiefer, Strickland, Clark, McGarry, and I understand that Councillor Lorentz is with us in spirit because his IT is getting in the way. Stage 1 of ION Light Rail service launched, and an incredible 73,000 residents used the service on the opening weekend alone. And since then, ION has delivered millions more rides. 2 short years later, we are excited to announce that the province has approved the Transit Project Assessment. We're excited because this is a crucial milestone and underlines the region's commitment to extending light rail transit to Cambridge. This is a most important milestone in preparation of the project, and we can now start on the process of seeking funding from provincial and federal partners. We are one major step closer to providing this important connection to Cambridge, one major step closer to delivering this important service to all residents of Waterloo Region. ION has been an incredible success. It has been a transformational impact on our community. Along with providing a convenient transit option for our growing community, it has stimulated more than $3.5 billion of investment along the Central Transit Corridor. It has helped us grow up, not grow out. This is more important than ever because Waterloo Region is growing. By 2051, our population is expected to reach more than 900,000 residents. This extension of light rail transit to Cambridge is a crucial support to sustainable growth in urban areas with higher densities and mixed land uses. It also helps us achieve Council's goals of a thriving economy, environment and climate action, and a health, safe, and inclusive community. When fully complete, ION will provide 37 kilometers of rapid transit and 27 stations, further enhancing our world-class transit system. We're thrilled that this project has been approved. We're thrilled that we are one step closer to creating an even more inclusive, sustainable, and connected community. Onward to Cambridge. I would now like to invite Matthew O'Neill, Manager of the Rapid Transit Coordination at the Region of Waterloo, to explain what this approval means for the project.
Thank you, Chair Redmond. So my name is Matthew O'Neill, Manager of Rapid Transit Coordination here at the Region of Waterloo, and I'm going to share with you a bit more information. So there are 4 major milestones in a large LRT project like this, and today is one of those. The province of Ontario has just approved the Stage 2 ION Transit Project Assessment process. So that is the 6-month process that we started in December. So we can now start seeking funding from our provincial and federal partners, which is a huge step forward for the project. So on June 10th, the Minister of Environment, Conservation and Parks signed a notice to proceed for the Stage 2 ION project with no conditions. So today the region will be publishing the statement of completion for the project, for the Transit Project Assessment process, and that marks the very final step in the streamlined formal 6-month process. The region has now satisfied its requirements under the Environmental Assessment Act, and we may now proceed to implementation according to the requirements and the commitments that are contained in the Environmental Project Report, which is available on the project website. So Stage 2 ION it's a strategic investment in the community. It's going to be transformational, and it's about sustainability as well, not just in terms of the vehicles and how people get around, but also how we grow and how we develop and intensify and where people live and how people get around. So it's strategic because it is a key part of a larger plan, of a number of plans to affect how we grow, how we develop, where investment happens, what kind of land use we have, and where it will benefit residents and the community in terms of quality of life, health, sustainability, and environmental stewardship, because we're going to be growing in the urban areas and not focused as much on the outskirts, on agricultural land and on greenfield. It's critical to the regional official plan policies for making the regional official plan work. Stage 2 ION is an investment in the community, so we will see a lot of returns for that investment in terms of bringing development, bringing growth, focusing growth to where we want to see that happen, and seeing the types of transit supportive, transit oriented development that we want to see. It will leverage existing assets and services and infrastructure that we already have in the urban areas. We can make better use of those. It will be transformational because we are looking forward into the future, into what kind of community we want to have. And this is a part of that vision, part of looking forward into the future and anticipating trends, but also influencing those trends towards more dense development, towards mixed uses, and to allowing people to get around the region by transit quicker with better connections, with higher reliability and greater comfort. So this project is going to transform how Cambridge grows, how it moves, and how it works. So Stage 2 ION, again, is an 18-kilometer extension of the region's existing LRT system in Kitchener-Waterloo. It will have 8 additional stations, and will go from Fairway Station that you see in here in Kitchener to downtown Cambridge. And it's going to be starting construction as early as 2028 potentially, although that does depend on seeking funding from our federal and provincial partners. And we're very, very excited to see that a lot of hard work has gone into this, and this approval from this notice to proceed from the province is basically an endorsement of all the hard work and commitment the region has put into this project. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Matthew. Now I'd like to pass it over to Greg DeRocher, CEO of the Cambridge Chamber of Commerce.
Well, it's truly an exciting day. I think we've been long waiting for this. I recall sitting in a boardroom at the region back in early 2001, talking about light rail and rapid transportation throughout the region of Waterloo. And here it is now making its way through the region. I think not only is the importance of having smooth, efficient, effective transportation of people from one end of the region to the other end of the region, we can't dismiss the fact that this is going to be our stake in the ground for growth and effective growth for the region of Waterloo for many, many, many years. And I think all you have to do is look at what Chair Redmond talked about, the $3.5 billion of investment that's happened so far. We're going to see tremendous investment into our community, creating better communities, more efficient communities, and more beautiful community as we go forward. So from our perspective, we know that we still have some runway to navigate, but this was a key step, getting to the point where we can actually effectively take a document to our federal and provincial partners and say, we're ready. We hope you're ready, and we need your investment. We need Canadians' investment and Ontarians' investment into sparking a real robust economy of development, of people, and of commerce in our region of Waterloo. So I'm so excited about this. I know a lot of business people in Cambridge are really excited about this, and I certainly know the entire region is excited about this as well. So yes, Chair Redmond, you're right. Onward to Cambridge.
Thank you so much, Greg. Now I'd like to pass it over to Mayor Catherine McGarry.
Thank you very much. I can't be more excited to be with all of my regional colleagues and everyone else here on the call today. But I do have to point out that probably the most excited here would be Regional Councillor Helen Jowett and also Carl Kiefer, because we are the Regional Council for Cambridge. And this is an incredibly exciting day. I recall, as all of you do, a couple of years ago on an absolutely brilliant spring morning, an hour and a half before summer started, that we cut the ribbon and launched the Phase 1 LRT in Kitchener. Celebratory excitement from everyone. And we saw the surroundings of the LRT in Kitchener in such a new way. And we couldn't wait to see Phase 2 coming to Cambridge. But as we've said before, in Tom Galloway's immortalized words, the three most important words that morning were onward to Cambridge. And what does Stage 2 mean to Cambridge? As you've heard from everyone today, it means investment, strategic planning, but we look at Stage 2 as a real investment. This has been years in the making. It means not only an investment in our community, but also an investment in our future. This investment will benefit all of our residents as well as our businesses. It advances a lot of the goals that Cambridge residents and indeed Waterloo residents hold dear. Environmental sustainability is one of our top priorities. Climate change is on everyone's mind. And higher order transit is transformational in making sure we have emissions-free, clean transportation options for our future. It not only connects our entire region, but it also provides those options for particularly the younger generations who are looking for different transportation options and don't necessarily want to own a car. So these are all transformational pieces. I know that now that the transit project assessment means that it's an approval by the province, and it means that we're able to lobby the government hard, and they know it's coming for this phase. Really holds true to the countryside line value that everyone here in the region understands. We know we cannot continue to pave over agricultural lands and that we need to grow up, not out. And as we've seen the investment along the LRT line in Kitchener and Waterloo, that's what we're looking forward for here in Cambridge. So I can't be more excited. Upper levels of government, you hear us now, we're coming for you. We're coming for that funding and we just can't wait. And I have to repeat it again. Onward to Cambridge.
Thank you so much, Mayor McGarry. We'll open it up to questions from media partners now. So Catherine, if you could direct your question to a member of the panel.
Okay. I'm not sure who to direct it to. I'm just going to leave it open and then whoever feels most comfortable answering. How big a challenge will it be to get the funding? This is a project that is more expensive than Stage 1. And the estimate that you've given doesn't include operating and borrowing costs. It's just the straight up cost of building it. So how challenging will it be, especially in this, we're still in COVID, all the governments are deeply in debt and deficit and have all kinds of competing priorities.
So Lindsay, I don't know, maybe I can start and Mayor McGarry can jump in. And I know Tom Galloway and Councillor Strickland have been here since the get-go. I would tell you, we have a proven track record. We have put money on the dash because we were early adopters. So a third of the cost for Phase 1 was borne by the local taxpayer. and we can now build on the success and the evidence of over $3.5 billion being invested. So we're asking the senior levels of government to partner with us and to invest. And we've seen different financial arrangements with the City of Ottawa as well as Hamilton. So I think we go in with a very strong case and a demonstrated ability to deliver. I don't know, Mayor McGarry or Tom, do you want to jump in?
I would love to. And that's a great question, Catherine, and something everybody's answering. But if you look to the way our provinces, our municipalities have come out of a recessionary period or a period of economic slowdown, infrastructure investment across the way is one proven way of coming out of an economic downturn, and not only providing the infrastructure that we need for the future, but it gets people working again, and also signals to other investors, whether it's within our province, our municipalities, or foreign direct investment. It signals to them that we're open for business and that we're able to get going on some of these incredible projects. I also think that the province has known this is coming. From the time that I was transportation minister and we were looking at phase 2 to Cambridge, while I was sitting in that role in 2018, a lot of this work was started but hadn't been completed yet, so we could get it going. The province is very well aware that phase 2 is coming. I think that at every single conversation that we've had with this current government, with the infrastructure minister and the transportation minister, that this project is on the works and will be coming shortly for funding. So I think that they're aware of it. The federal partners are also aware that it's coming, and it's a good investment in our future for all of the reasons that you've heard in the talks this morning.
If I could add, Chair Redmond, there's some parallels here, of course, with stage 1 in terms of the financing. First of all, I concur. We're anticipating pretty much the capital costs that are eligible to be 100% paid by the province. There are some capital costs that are not, but we're not anticipating, at least I'm not anticipating, the borrowing to be anywhere near the levels. So the of the first phase, and so the carrying costs associated with the property tax impact will be considerably less. And I would anticipate that given this announcement now, that in some relatively short order, we'll have to review the RTMP, the Rapid Transit Master Plan, to look at how we are going to handle the operating costs in the future. You might remember that we had a 9-year phase-in of property taxes to cover the first phase, and I'm anticipating that we would probably have that kind of thing again, and it may have to start in the relatively near future, maybe not 2022, but maybe soon thereafter. The other thing I did want to mention too is that the parallel with stage 1, when we made this similar type of announcement in stage 1, this is when the investments along the route really started to take off, because by the time we opened the first phase exactly 2 years ago today, in about an hour and a quarter from now, just before the summer solstice, but and still in the spring of 2019, which of course was important to some of us. Already there had been huge investments along the corridor in property acquisition, building permits being pulled, and in some cases construction. So I think this is going to be a huge signal to the development industry in Cambridge. And we already see some evidence of that already, of course, because I think what happened in the north is really teaching developers in the south that you kind of want to get in early, as land prices may well spike, as just about every available development site now along stage 1 has been acquired. So it's important from that point of view as well, even though the system may not be up and running and we may not be cutting a ribbon for some time. The actual intensification, the actual planning tool that this is, actually kicks in much earlier than the ribbon cutting.
And maybe I can just quickly add that the financing model is yet to be determined, but the expectation is it'll be fully funded by the provincial and/or federal government.
Do you have a follow-up question, Catherine?
Yeah, I do. I always do. So this is more just, I guess, more sort of specific detail-oriented question. So I just wondered if you could clarify. So you said possibly construction 2028, but so then we would be looking at when for it starting. But the other part of the question is just, you said that it was accepted by the province or approved by the province, the TPA, with no conditions. I just wondered if there were any changes or requests for more detail, and also a number of people, when it went to public consultation, asked for changes or suggested changes to the route, you know, going, connecting closer to the airport, or do we need to go down Hespeler Road? Is there any possibility for any change? So I guess, did the province ask for any changes, or other than conditions? You said there were no conditions. And is there any possibility for future change? And when are we looking at this thing actually getting built? Well, not operational minimum. What would you said starting 2028 for construction? So when would it be actually running?
Sounds like a Matthew question. Matthew O'Neill?
Yeah, that does sound like a me question, doesn't it? So what we've said is the construction start date would be no earlier than 2028. There's no guarantees of that. It also, that would depend on funding, obviously. So if construction were to start of the project proper at 2028, then construction would be, you know, between 4 and 5 years. So that would have opening day, we've said 2032.
Right.
Obviously subject to a number of factors between now and then. So in terms of what the province has stated to us, so we presented a project, a route, as part of the transit project assessment process, and they evaluate that project, that route. And they in the minister's opinion, the project, based on the information supplied, is not anticipated to have a negative impact on matters of provincial importance and Indigenous, constitutionally protected Indigenous and treaty rights. So that's what that means as part of that process. We did receive comments, as we almost always do, on areas that people would like to see LRT to go to. I think that that's a good thing, that people want to see LRT service in various areas. That means that I think people like LRT and want to see it happen. So that's a good thing. But the process itself involves just one project, the one route that was endorsed by council in 2019. There is, so currently that we are not undertaking a process to look at additional routes. I think that we have a good route. We spent a lot of time carefully evaluating the route. We got a lot of public feedback. We had a lot of engagement and consultation on the route. And so we've been quite diligent on getting that part right to maximize the project benefits and to really make an effort to minimize the impacts. There are still impacts, as there are with an LRT project, but we have put a lot of effort to minimizing those. So it's a great route as it is now. There is, if through the design process we realize that that some condition in the area isn't as anticipated, or there's some major new information, or maybe a constraint that becomes quite technically challenging, there is a process for the transit project assessment process for an addendum. But you know, currently that's not something we're approaching or undertaking at this time.
Okay, so just to be clear, so you're saying the route that as presented is essentially the one that's going ahead?
That's
barring,
correct.
barring some, you know,
Yeah, so if I could give you an example that might be helpful. So the GO Train feasibility study that the phase 2 has just been concluded by the region. So the preferred station location was identified as coinciding with the Pine Bush Ion LRT station,
Mhm.
and it was identified on a schematic or functional level that this would ideally be the location, so we could co-locate and we could have transfers, which would be a great idea. It would be fantastic. So there would be a number of details to work out if we started to develop that concept and that design to coordinate the projects. And that would be a case where, okay, we have to maybe make some shifts, maybe shift the track or massage it a little bit. That might be a situation where, okay, this is a little bit different than was described in the environmental project report. So we have to do a little addendum process where you submit some additional information, and then you can that will basically modify what's in the EPR. But as it stands right now, the province's approval is for what's contained and described in the environmental project report, the EPR, and the requirements and commitments, the commitments to future work that are contained in that report.
Okay.
Doug, if you would like to ask a question.
Sure. Okay. Now I know this is pretty far out with 2028 being the start, but how has the pandemic kind of played into this with I don't know, losses on revenue from ridership and any changes that may come forward out of people having reluctance to get on public transit going forward after the pandemic?
Maybe I'll take that one as well, if that's okay. So we have seen a drop in ridership on transit during the pandemic. So that is true. We are starting to see, as people get vaccinated and as numbers of COVID-19 cases drop, we do see people coming back onto transit and ridership increasing again. So we're very optimistic that about where the levels will be by the end of the year. People still need to travel to work and get around, and there are many people that still rely on transit. I will say that Stage 2 Ion is a long-term project. I think that we're looking well past the next year or 2 years. We're looking well past the pandemic as to what the community is going to look like. It's also not just about moving people. It's not just about the transportation. A big component is that it's a strategic project that helps us to support our land use planning policies, our regional official plan, where investment will happen. Is about supporting higher densities and intensification and mixed uses. And so it's about both of those things. So I think that we have plenty of time. We're monitoring transit ridership on an ongoing basis and reporting to council on that. And we have plenty of time between now and implementation to continue to monitor that. But we are very confident with the amount of growth that the region anticipates and is expected to see over the next 30 years that there will be plenty of people there to support that, the extension.
Okay, I see Catherine, but Sean, I'm also wondering if you want to just talk about operating a transit system as an essential service through the pandemic and the partnership the province had, and then we'll go to Catherine.
Well, yeah, during the pandemic, for the revenue, the federal government came in and supported our transit operating system. Well, all in all, in our last budget, I think the total support for federal and provincial governments is around $38 million. And so, transit is an important component of our economic recovery, as you have heard previously. But it's also important to recognize that when, further my previous comment about the financing model, but we have some time to take into account what future transit ridership is going to be. And that will be assessed, as Matthew points out, and brought into our operating model. And that's where you can get into, there's no final conclusion yet on the constructability and operation for phase 2. And so all those kinds of things will have to be brought into consideration. But I think the assumption is that once everyone's vaccinated, that transit will return to more kind of pre-COVID normal use. The other thing is that the transit system in Ion is really more of a planning tool. It's great that it moves people. That's fantastic. And we need those operating revenues for our financial model, but it's also a planning tool. And this will really help with increasing our intensification and bringing some more development to Cambridge like we've seen in the north of the region.
Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you. And really following along Councillor Strickland's comments about ridership afterwards, we need to remember that our 3 post-secondary education institutions facilities are not back to having 100% in-class learning. Many of our students are still remotely learning for either University of Waterloo, Wilfrid Laurier, and as well as Conestoga College. And we're looking forward to seeing that revenue come back once the schools and the facilities, the universities and colleges are open again. But I also did want to state that the planning tool is there, which is one of the reasons why the terminus in Cambridge is planned to be at Bruce Street, right across the river, actually, from this is right downtown. So part of the thinking is at some point they're able to actually get on the LRT and go to the other campuses. So that's part of what our ridership is going to look like in the future. Thanks.
Doug, did you have a follow-up question?
No, I think that addresses a lot of the detractors of the LRT, given that, ridership is kind of the top concern, but they don't look at the big picture. So that's what I was getting at with that question. So thanks.
Are there any questions from CTV?
I have another question.
Sure.
See, I told you I always have another question. Yeah, I just wondered, oh, now what was it? Bloody hell. Oh yeah, so my understanding is you're going to be making the business case in the fall. Is that you would be presenting some kind of document with the dollars and cents required and the dollars and cents anticipated generated or something? Like, what would the business case be and when does that happen?
Sounds like a Matthew question again.
Sure, I think that is me. So the business case, we have developed it to a certain point. So there has been work on the business case completed already, but we must use the most current land use forecast, so population and employment forecasts. And so the project team for Stage 2 Ion is coordinating with the Regional Official Plan Review team, which is currently underway, and we'll be using information and outputs from that process. And so both of those are expected to wrap up in early next year.
Okay.
And that is the document. The business case is the document that will have the pros and cons, the cost benefit analysis. It will have the a strategic case, a financial case, economic case, and also constructability and implementation case in it. And that business case is the document, the primary document that we use when we go to MTO with our funding requests, our initial funding requests, and it's the document they use to evaluate the project.
Okay, so early 2022 then we're talking.
Correct.
Okay, thanks, Matthew.
If there's no follow-up questions from the media, or if anyone else would like to say something before we go, I'll give the opportunity now. Councillor Jowett.
Good morning, everybody. Yeah, it is an exciting day. I don't have anything planned to say. I wasn't sure we would be given an opportunity, but I did want to say to both Catherine and Doug for your questions, because I do appreciate the fulsome questions that are going to demonstrate to our public the interrelated factors here, and when you ask the question about COVID and financial concerns, I look at this, it's difficult, but represent representing our 100,000 constituents of tomorrow. So we really do have to be forward thinking, and pretty proud of this regional government and staff for the way that we have perpetuated this day to day, as difficult as it has been, and certainly due to COVID, some of the scares we got when the numbers dropped, and rightly so. But it is onward to Cambridge, and it is onward to the future, and it's onward to those 900,000. So I appreciate those fulsome questions, and I'm really hoping that the stories that you guys get out there cover those really technical and interrelated factors that bring and encourage prosperity to the whole region. So thanks.
Catherine?
Yes, I did want to underscore the importance of having the feasibility study for the GO train between Cambridge and Guelph to connect with the Kitchener all-day two-way line in the future, and how that interrelates to a very integrated overall transportation network throughout Cambridge and also the region. And I fully believe that the business case for that GO train link, as well as the LRT phase 2 to Cambridge, is going to help to strengthen both business cases to move forward, because it shows future forward-looking planning in order to integrate a number of different major transportation projects. So I'm really excited to see both go forward. Thanks.
Sean?
Yeah, just really quickly, this is a really significant announcement here today, and for Tom and I, who have been through the transit wars for the last 15 years, when we first made the commitment to phase 1 and had to go through all of the negativity connected to that, we at the same time said that we're not finished. We're going to connect the north with the south, and we made that commitment several years ago, and there were several people who doubted that it would ever happen. And we haven't built the train to Cambridge yet, but this is the first step, and is a demonstration of our council's commitment to connecting the north to the south, phase 1 and phase 2. And I think that's quite significant for the residents of Cambridge that we are committed to getting this thing done.
And Lindsay, sorry, I'm going to just jump in here and say that one of the things that I thought of when Doug asked his question was, we talk about all of the regional services that have gone on through the COVID pandemic. And we usually think of public health, we think of transit, we think of a lot of services, paramedic, the police that have gone through, but so has our planning staff. So when we talk about the regional official plan, that has continued to go through the due process, albeit virtually, because that's the way we operate during a pandemic, as has this whole process of due diligence and getting input from the community. All of those things are absolutely necessary to keep going, because we know when we come out of this pandemic that if we want investment, if we want to attract world-class talent, we have to be in a position to offer that kind of economic future. And we know that we have it in the region of Waterloo. So all of those things have continued to go forward, which is why we're at this juncture now in the planning stage. Carl and then Helen.
Yeah, thanks very much, Chair Redmond. I just wanted to comment on the fact that, I too am excited about, us getting to this point and moving forward. I was one of the ones that always believed it should have been done right away, and that's history, and we can't go back to that now. But, the sooner the better, and I've said it on many public occasions. But the fact that, all these things are coming to fruition now is great. I think we have to keep pressing the provincial and federal government, as was mentioned in the presentations. And for all the reasons that people have stated, the Chamber of Commerce, Greg, and everybody, from an economic standpoint, it makes all the sense in the world, and we really need this. So that's my 2 cents worth. Thanks.
Helen?
Yeah, while we're talking about this, I was just kind of seeing the humor in the old movie Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, and here I think we're moving to planes, trains, bikes, buses, options for people, as and I think that's a good thing as we become more intensified. So just enjoying the
Thank you very much, everyone. And thank you for, again, making time in your schedule this morning to join us for this exciting announcement. And if there's no further questions, I will end this event. Thank you for joining us and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, Lindsay. We can't go off without saying onward to Cambridge.
Let's do it together. 3, 2, 1. Onward to
Onward to
Cambridge.
Cambridge.
onward to Cambridge.